Hello, welcome to everyone who's joining us. We're learning the laws of Megillah, and we're learning the Mishnah Berurah, and we're in Siman Tafresh Tzadi, which is 690, number 3, Gimel. And we're learning about the fact that if you have to listen to all of the Megillah, if you have to hear every single word, and other halachas, other laws discussing that topic. So let's begin. Tzarech likrosa kula. You have to read the entire Megillah. Umetoch haksav. You have to read it from the Megillah itself. V'imkara al peh lo yatsa. Let's say you're very smart, you have very good memory, and you read the Megillah by heart. You say the whole thing by heart. So in that case, you don't fulfill the obligation. V'tzarech shetehei ksuva kula lefanav lechatchila. Lechatchila, the preferred practice is that the entire Megillah has to be written in front of you. Avo b'diavad, but if you don't have another choice, im hishman asayfer be'emsa tevos, let's say you have a Megillah that in the middle of the Megillah is missing words, afilu ad chatzia ukaram hakor al peh yatsa, and the person laning, he read the words that are missing from the Megillah in the middle, then you fulfill your obligation. Unless over half the words are missing. So if you have less than half the words from the middle of the Megillah missing, and the person laning reads those words by heart, then you fulfill your obligation, up until half. The Ramah says, Avol im hishmit tchilasa o sofa, but if the Megillah is missing the beginning or the end, afilu miyuta, even just a little bit, lo yatsa, that's worse. Vafilu, even, we're going to see, the Mishnah Berurah is going to say, even just one verse perhaps, from the beginning or the end of the Megillah, since it makes it look like a sefer which is incomplete. It looks like a book which is incomplete, and one doesn't fulfill the obligation from the Megillah. However, if the missing part is only from something in the middle, that's okay. Unless the Ramah adds, Dafka delo hishmit inyan shalim, only if it wasn't a complete topic which was missing from the middle of the Megillah. But if it was something missing from the middle of the Megillah and it wasn't a complete topic, then one fulfills the obligation even if the person laning read it by heart. But if more than half of the Megillah is missing, afilu hen ksuvos, even if it's written, elishem metushtashos, it's like blurred, so it's technically written, but it's just blurred, it's hard to read. Ve'ein rishum manikar, and you can't make out the shape of the letters, psula, then it is not a good, then the Megillah is not kosher. Okay, so let's go and let's read the Mishnah Berurah on what we just learned. Tzarech likrosa kula, you have to read all the Megillah. V'hu likuva, it's required. V'das rov haposkim, the opinion of most of the halachic decisors is shafilu im chisim mimena rak teva achas lo yatsa. Even if someone doesn't read just one word of the Megillah, one does not fulfill the obligation. They say there was, I think there was a yeshiva where they lay the Megillah, and someone was listening to the recording at night, and they realized that there was a word missing. So they had to wake up everybody and go read the Megillah again. So you have to hear every single word of the Megillah. Umetoch haksav, you have to read it from the Megillah, can't read it by heart. Umizbar b'shas, it says in the Talmud, da'afilu koreh kol pasuk b'Megillah ela shelo haisa Megillah ksheira nami mikri bal peh v'lo yatsa. If the Megillah isn't kosher and you read it from the Megillah, an unkosher Megillah, that is the same status of reading it by heart. But tzarech shetehei ksuva, it has to be read. We said, Rotzalomer demasha amru lo yatsa hainu im kara bal peh as kol Megillah oruba avol im kara miktasik sheir di'evid. We're saying that when is it a problem that you don't fulfill the obligation? When you read it by heart, that's when you read the entire Megillah or most of the Megillah by heart. But if you only read one or two words until half of the Megillah, then it's kosher. Even if the reason you're reading it by heart is because the scribe omitted some words, until half. Now obviously, you should try to get a Megillah which is totally kosher and written properly, but if let's say you're in the middle of the Megillah reading and there's a word that's missing in the Megillah, or it's written improperly, so you read it by heart, and that's totally fine. Let's say you only have one of these Megillahs that's missing missing words, then you could read it. Afilo ad chatzia, and even until half. Half is missing. V'chatzia, what if you have half the Megillah missing? Exactly half. Do you fulfill your obligation with that? So he says, Yesh la'ayin imksher b'di'evi. So we need to investigate, needs further study to see if that is kosher or not. Avolim hishmit debezeh nira k'sefer chaser. Now, what's the reason that we said if you're missing an entire topic within the central part of the Megillah? Sorry, this is talking about missing the beginning or end of the Megillah. If you're missing the beginning or the end of the Megillah, we say that it is not kosher because the Bezen Nir Kesefer Chaser, it looks like a book which is lacking. It looks like an incomplete book. But if you have like a verse missing from, or a word missing from the middle of the Megillah, that doesn't look like a book which is lacking, a book that's deficient. It just looks like a complete book with a little mistake. So by Megillah we don't have to worry about it. It calls man shatayos einem berubash Megillah, as long as it's not the majority of the Megillah. Halav v'nikras igara, since it's called a letter. Afilu miuta, ve'avshar afilu b'chazarak pasuk rishon or achron nami hadin kain. Even, he says, it sounds like even perhaps if the first verse or the last verse of the Megillah, just one verse is missing, then you would not fulfill the obligation. Dafka dol hishmit in shalem. But if we're missing a entire topic in the middle of the Megillah, we said it's not kosher. And the reason is, again, because it looks like a deficient book if you're missing an entire topic within the Megillah. So just to summarize, one has to read, when one reads the Megillah, one hears the Megillah, he has to hear every single word. And let's say there is a word in the Megillah which is missing, so the person laning, the Baal Koreh, could read that by heart, read that word by heart, and until half of the Megillah, even until half of the Megillah is mistaken, is messed up, the words are messed up, until half the Megillah, one still fulfills his obligation, until half the Megillah can be read by heart, except if it's, what's missing is an entire topic from the middle of the Megillah, or the beginning or the end of the Megillah. In such a case, one does not fulfill the obligation. With that, wishing everyone a beautiful day.